Welcome to TerraUsClub.com. I'm Christin, your host. I'm your local environmental scientist and friend, and this is a place for us to have open discussion on eco, news, and lifestyle. This is the podcast and YouTube channel, and we have a lot to discuss. Let's get started. Sometimes I tend to feel like I'm guilty for being involved and contributing to climate change, as most people are. Actually, everybody is. I mean, there's not one person who doesn't contribute in one way or the other. No one is removed from that process because it's inevitable as human beings. But, most people don't contribute that much. When you look at the amount of contribution to climate change, you're actually not looking, there's really not much to it. A lot of people don't contribute that much when you compare it to giant corporations that have a major role to play in these things. We get oil from these corporations. Let's say example, Exxon, Shell. They're the ones who are fracking in obtaining these oil for our cars so we can drive and things like that. They are the ones that are contributing the most to climate change, yet they make it seem like they need to make an initiative for people to feel guilty about it. Of course, everybody has a role to play, but you don't put the blame on the human beings who are trying to live their very best, but also trying to be sustainable at the same time, because when you look at us at a smaller perspective, we are smaller individuals. And the larger corporations, they have the most important role to play. Okay? They're not regulated that much, and yet they still find their very way to make it seem like it's our fault. Now, let me just get right into it. This is Christin. Hi. From TerraUsClub.com. Please feel free to visit the website. I have amazing things up there. I have a YouTube channel and sustainability-oriented website that you may want to visit, listen to, and engage in. But for this program here, we are going to watch Second Thought and how corporations shifted the blame for climate change. I will be providing my commentary on this.
How many listicles have you read proposing the 10 best ways to live a greener life? Do you feel obligated to recycle, carpool or bike to work, use energy-efficient light bulbs, or buy local produce? These are all good things, and the world is certainly no worse off for individuals trying to be more eco-friendly. The only problem is, the push for individuals to, quote, make the ethical choice and greenify their own lives is a massive scam. Sure, we should all try to be more conscious with our consumption, but
See, a lot of times when I'm talking to people, that is the first thing that they say. Oh, recycling is a scam. Being a sustainability person is a scam. It's not a scam. What's a scam are the initiatives that are being put in place to make you think that it's going to get us somewhere. Like you doing your duty, your due diligence as a person is not a scam, because at the end of the day, you're doing something to make a difference. Okay? Even if it's small, even if it's just, like they said, shopping locally, trying to bike to work or public transportation. So those are not scams because they're effective. If everybody did that, okay, yes, we collectively will be able to see a difference in terms of just seeing less emissions and having better systems of sustainability amongst mankind. But that's not enough, okay? So we have these corporations that are doing the most. Let us continue.
taking on the mantle of climate warrior ourselves, we've been swindled into letting the real culprits off the hook. For over 4 decades, some of the world's largest corporations have anticipated and understood the causes and disastrous effects of climate change, and either buried the evidence, shifted the blame onto individuals, or both. Just how bad is the problem? Let's take a trip back to 1977. One afternoon in July of 1977, at the Exxon Corporation headquarters, an assortment of powerful oilmen received a striking report from James Black, one of the company's most senior scientists. The verdict was simple. The burning of fossil fuels was adversely affecting the global climate, and would eventually lead to disaster. Note that this was in 1977, before
1977. And you need a scientist to tell you that these changes are relevant or are visible? It's 2025. We're seeing so much now. Didn't we just have reoccurring hurricanes? Okay, it's a whole system. Everything is interconnected. Okay.
much of the public was even aware of the term climate change. Black presented a second assessment to a larger Exxon audience a year later, building on his previous findings and offering detailed figures. Exxon responded in what today might be seen as a bizarre fashion. They launched the most cutting-edge, empirical, thorough investigation ever into global climate change. Over the next decade, the company performed rigorous CO2 sampling and climate modeling. It assembled a panel of the sharpest minds Exxon had to offer. And then, once they had gathered a deep understanding of the state of the pending climate emergency, they launched a decades-long campaign aimed at obfuscating their findings and sowing doubt among the public. They chose to work as the tip of the spear for climate denial, spitting in the face of the evidence their own scientists had gathered. They lobbied to block federal regulations on greenhouse gas emissions and decried anything less.
I'm seeing this today, 2025. Why are we removing climate change initiatives? Okay, so we've got this we've got an individual in office right now, and they decided to make a statement saying that, actually, let me pull it up so I could be accurate with my statement, that he said. Now, I don't agree with the statement. However, it is where we are right now. It's very, very unfortunate. Now, what was said, let me pull it up. It was in one of the executive orders that addressed climate change initiatives and the fact that they are, kind of delaying processes and there's too much regulation on there. And so what it said was, wait, we're pulling it up. Bear with me because this was a lot of information all at once and it's very hard to keep track of everything. So in 3, 2, 1. All right, let me do it again. 3, 2, 1. Executive orders signed include removing diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And one of the statements in the executive order read, climate extremism has exploded inflation and overburdened businesses with regulation. So that statement there is wild to me because we're saying climate extremism, like we're going overboard. Literally, we're trying to protect this world from overwarming, and we're also trying to make sure that our resources aren't exploited. If we don't have regulation to do that, our resources are going to diminish. They already have been diminishing, and the fact that we're saying it's extremism, what I'm saying is that when we're saying climate extremism has exploded, we're making it sound like we're being obsessed with it. No, this is literal mindset that needs to be had if we're gonna redirect ourselves from destroying our planet. We've already made significant destruction on this planet. However, this makes it no better. In fact, it's going to make it even worse, I think. But we'll see. I mean, I hope there's a good plan here. So basically it says climate extremism has exploded inflation and overburdened businesses with regulation. Yeah, we need regulation so that people don't take advantage of what was given to us naturally, our resources, our species, and things like that. If we don't have regulation to make sure that there's not smoke being burned every 5 seconds or unauthorized smoke being released into our atmosphere, causing us to have lung issues and respiratory issues, we need to do something about that. So we need regulation. Let's continue.
Operations. Exxon was critical in building the colossus of misinformation that persists to this day. Meanwhile, just 100 companies around the world account for 71% of the world's total greenhouse gas emissions. ExxonMobil ranks number 5. This is the central con of the world's largest corporations. They've known the truth for
It's crazy because one of my friends told me yesterday, they were like, if the environmental sector of corporations or organizations were removed, they would turn to the dark side because that's the only available job available. And I'm like, don't stoop to that level. Please do not sell out. We don't do that here. So they said, well, if there's no other available need for environmental specialists or professionals or advocates or stewards, I'm gonna work for Exxon. I've said, please don't do that. That's not the way of the environmental mindset. Do not sell out, please.
Decades, and instead of working to mitigate the effects of the catastrophe they're causing, they choose to actively mislead those vastly more likely to suffer the fallout, all in the name of profit. Over the decades following Exxon's about-face on climate change, well-intentioned eco groups and half-baked public policy initiatives have shifted the burden onto the average global citizen.
Okay, this is where we
what
get
other
into
option did they have? How are politicians supposed to fund their re-election?
So, in order for them to not look like the bad guy, why don't they just put the blame onto the human being or the everyday individual? That's a great idea for them, yes, but it's also very conniving and just evil.
Election campaigns without generous donations from the oil and gas lobby. If Exxon wants tax breaks, less oversight, and complete autonomy, who else could they pressure to, quote, save the planet? The answer, of course, is the rest of us.
Yes,
the vast majority of the world's population that has no...
Okay. Oversight is what keeps corporations and businesses from wanting to be authorized to do their projects or certain activities. Because, for one thing, authorizing certain activities to maintain the integrity of the environment and the workplace is what it's a delay. It delays their funds. It might delay their processes. It might delay them making a profit, and they don't like that. That's why they don't like regulation, because it takes too long for the regulation to take effect or to be reviewed for authorization and permitted actions. That is what keeps them from wanting to be regulated. Why was that so hard to say? I'm sorry.
No sway over legislation, and certainly none over corporate greed. And so we're told to switch to electric cars, take public transportation, stop using the elevator, unplug appliances, recycle, stop wasting food, buy less meat, shop local.
Hold on.
Many of us do it, and it helps to ease our conscience as we watch coastal towns and small tropical islands.
Another thing too, what he just said, it helps to ease our conscience. If you are a mindful environmentalist or an environmental professional like me, it's like a burden of knowledge. You know so much about how the systems interact with each other that it's like it hurts to just let things be and allow companies and corporations to do and continue the way that they are. So we may want to just let's say, for example, for me, I want to get an electric car. I do. It is my dream, because in my head I'm thinking like, okay, well, I'm idling a lot, because when you're at a stop sign or a stoplight, you're just sitting there, letting your gas rise and be emitted from your car, right? So in my head, I'm thinking, well, if I get an electric car, I can idle all day without thinking that my air is going to get polluted every day because I have something to do with it. And it just really hurts knowing that, because every day it's like a thought process that I'm thinking, oh, what am I doing wrong? Like, oh, it's a burden of knowledge. That's really what it is. You know too much about the systems and your role to play. And if you have a role to play, everybody has a role to play, because you're no different from the next person who's driving to wherever they have to drive to. It's crazy. So yes, allow me to feel good about my electric car, because that is what I need to relieve my anxiety. Let's continue.
Flood and their populations evacuate their homes. In May of 2019, CO2 levels hit 415 parts per million for the first time in 3 million years. Not since the Industrial Revolution, not since the advent of agriculture, but for the first time since humans have existed.
Okay, hold on, because I want to make sure that whenever I'm reading something, I would like to know where the source of the information is coming from so that I could further my understanding and formulate my opinion based on the accurate details. So this was, oh wow, it doesn't have the credit. So I'm pretty sure at the bottom of the page, the YouTube page, there surely has to be some type of credit to the source of the information. So I would say, subscribe here, blah, 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 blah. Well, they don't have anything. They don't have a source of the information. Where did they get this from? That's the main question that a lot of times you have to ask before, taking just information. But for the purposes of the commentary, I will react to what I'm seeing. And just note, disclaimer, that there is no source to these numbers, to these to the data here. But here it's showing the composite Antarctic CO2 record with current Mauna Loa reading. I guess they use the Mauna Loa readings because that's the source of a lot of CO2 emissions. Let me see. Why are we with current Mauna Loa readings? Let me look at that. Mauna Loa readings. I'm going to go to one of my sources here with peer-reviewed details. Why do we look at Mauna Loa? This is the question that I'm going to ask myself first. Why do we look at Mauna Loa readings to compare temperatures and climate in the years? The main idea, but I think Google will understand what I'm asking, so we don't have to be that specific. Hold on, bear with me. So it's saying here, scientists use Mauna Loa readings to monitor and compare climate temperatures because the Mauna Loa Observatory, situated on a remote Hawaiian volcano at a high altitude, provides a very clear air sample, largely unaffected by local pollution, allowing for accurate measurements of global atmospheric carbon dioxide levels, which are directly linked to temperature changes in the climate system, essentially acting as a reliable baseline. Yeah, that baseline for global atmospheric conditions. Thank you so much for that answer, because that really, really helps us in understanding and identifying what we're seeing here in this paper here. So basically, to continue, composite Antarctic CO2 record with current Mauna Loa readings. Okay, so it provides us with that baseline. So what we're seeing here is the concentration in parts per million, and comparing it to 1,000 years before present. Okay, so 700,000 years before present, it was a concentration, climate CO2 concentration parts per million at 250 parts per million. Moving up 1,000 years before present, 100 years before present. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's this spike here. So if you see at the 0,000 years before present, you're seeing 415 parts per million. The emergence of the Homo sapiens is right where you see between 200 and 100,000 years before present. So then, okay, so yeah, we're seeing a drastic spike to 415 parts per million. We're making things in this world so much easier to access, to obtain in terms of resources, products, the production of what we need from our resources. And that's the idea of convenience is what's making all of our ability to exploit and emit so much easier and very much powerful. So that's what that is. Wow. I think they may have gotten this from NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They may have gotten it from there. Oh, it says it's plotted by Peter Glark. Data from Luthel et al. Okay, so usually when you see it like that, Luthel et al., there are multiple it's peer reviewed basically. So apparently this is peer reviewed. We could confirm that later on, and I will note that. But that's what that's saying.
Evolution, not since the advent of agriculture, but for the first time since humans have existed. 3 million years ago, in the Pliocene era, the world was much warmer. Sea levels are estimated to have been up to 90 feet higher than they are today. That's the kind of world 415 parts per million produces. The list of cities and islands that would be completely submerged is extensive. Miami, Amsterdam, Lisbon, New Orleans, and hundreds of other towns, cities, and islands would go under, displacing millions of people. All so Exxon and others like them can keep paying their executives millions of dollars in bonuses. This is all infuriating, and the people complicit in causing and covering up the climate emergency deserve to be tried for crimes against humanity.
That's
But
the thing,
what
a
can
crime
we
against
do?
humanity.
Instead of letting ourselves off the
Impacting
hook by simply
humanity for
pledging to eat
generations to come. We are not becoming sustainable.
less meat or
please
take
don't
fewer
remove climate
transatlantic
change
flights,
initiatives.
we need to shake off the mindset of individualism and consumerism, and start to see ourselves as an interconnected group of people with a common goal.
Yes.
The prevailing cultural zeitgeist in the West, the willingness to see ourselves as merely consumers as opposed to citizens, is no accident. That mindset was built, slowly and deliberately, over several decades.
Humans are citizens before
Since
consumers.
Reagan and Thatcher, the prime
Consumerism
motivation
is
of
what
government has been to
comes
deregulate.
after we establish ourselves as humans and citizens, but the increase in consumerism has totally distorted the idea that we are humans first because of how prominent consumerism is. We're forgetting what we actually are and why we're actually here. We're not here to buy things all the time. We're not here to excessively exploit our resources in the natural environment that we have. We are simply here to preserve and live within our home. Okay? It just is what it is. I don't know what else to tell you. So let's continue with what we're watching.
Privatize, give tax cuts to corporations, and remove any barriers to the exercise of unaccountable corporate power, while dismantling anything even remotely threatening to private power, especially unions and regulatory committees. In the 40 years since these policies have become staples of Western governance, corporations have been able to amass mountains of profit and thereby manipulate the very government that gave them their power. We are in the midst of a crisis.
Yes, we are. And so, like we're saying, corporations are shifting the blame onto the human being. Why do you think some of these businesses, corporations, whatever, highly notable companies, why do they have initiatives, green initiatives? Some of these green initiatives have been reported to be just greenwashed. They're not even doing what they're saying that they're doing. For example, I was recently told that in Clearwater, Florida, they were caught saying that they're recycling, yet they're not. They're taking the stream of recyclables and they are throwing them into the landfill. So they're not actually being recycled. They got caught doing that. And I will show you exactly where and when that was reported. But before I do that, let's just proceed with this while I find it.
As predicted 4 decades ago by the very orchestrators of the crisis, and they will not give up their control without a fight. Throughout history, only mass movements have been able to turn the tide against seemingly insurmountable odds. We have to stop thinking as individuals and reignite the natural human desire to work together to make the world a better place for all of us.
Okay, thank you. So that was that. It's very, very sad. It is very, very sad. If this is something that you engage in often, you think about and you watch. So about the Clearwater part, there was a report in September. 32 tons of recycling collected in August in Clearwater was rejected due to high contamination. And that's the thing. A lot of times, the reason why some recycling material isn't taken or added to their recycling stream is because it's contaminated. It wasn't properly thrown into your recycling. It wasn't properly recycled, and it may not have been the right material. It probably wasn't cleaned out correctly. It probably wasn't even recyclable. There's just a lot complications that come with recycling. So there definitely needs to be a better system, like some type of pamphlet or informational tool that helps you figure out how to recycle. And that's a good idea. That's a good idea. So I'm not going to say more about that. But just know that if there was a better way, so like a manual, the manual, maybe for each state or something, and that could help with recycling information. That rejection is prompting the city to remind its residents to recycle properly, as officials say crews have collected loads of recycling that were 50% garbage. I believe that because when I'm at people's houses and I look at the recycling bin, a little hobby of mine, I just like looking at people's recycling bins. Thank you. But yeah, when I look in them, I'm seeing this isn't recyclable. What makes you think a used paper towel is recyclable? What makes you think this greasy pizza box is recyclable? Now, Domino's pizza boxes, they do say recyclable even with the grease. I don't believe that. I still don't even believe that. You're just making it sound like it was meant to be that you guys are working with us to make sure that we recycle these boxes. If that was the case, then why doesn't every pizza box with grease have that same disclaimer on it? I don't believe that to be true. And it is what it is at this point. So, in the following guide, Tampa Bay breaks down how Clearwater residents can properly recycle their materials. So that wasn't what we wanted to find. What we wanted to see was the portion where it was talking about how Clearwater was blessed. Oh, okay. So it was like their intention was to recycle, but they just weren't doing it. It's just simple as that. So you can't say you're recycling when you're not. I love how we can talk about these things. FBI offers help as Clearwater investigates recycling breach. So what was the breach? She discovered that the city's solid waste department had been collecting recyclables from residents' homes, but had not sent any materials to the WM processing plant in Tampa since June. Instead, they sent all recyclable materials with the regular refuse to the Pinellas County Solid Waste Disposal Complex. As city staff investigated the matter over the next few weeks, they confirmed that the problems go back years, not just the previous 6 months. Okay, thank you. That's even worse. Earlier this month, the Tampa Bay Times reported that Clearwater has delivered a baffling low amount of recycling to WM waste management, by the way, each month for processing since at least January 2020. Okay. The city sent 231 tons to waste management. That's basically about half of what St. Petersburg typically recycles each month. Terrible. Clearwater is also responsible for transporting recyclables from Bel Air and Safety Harbor to the waste management processing facility. But Clearwater's total deliveries to waste management were less than what the city had collected from just those two locations, Bel Air and Safety Harbor. And the city officials, they are citing that the staff turnover is what's making it hard for the recycling facility to take on their role and properly take these items to the correct recycling facility. Okay, maybe. Former solid waste director Earl Gloucester, he retired. So, yeah. I was, okay. That's enough. So, there you have it. When you as an individual, let's say if you were the individual who was recycling and you were enjoying your recycling, just to know that nothing that you were doing was even going to the right place. Nothing that you were doing was even worth putting it in the proper tote in your house. That's really just a letdown, honestly. Especially if you know that, I feel good doing this. I'm doing my part. It's awesome. Just to know that what you were doing, what you had control over wasn't effective. How does that make you feel? I don't like that at all. So, there you have it. The blame has been shifted on to the ordinary person. So that's why I like to think. I say this. I say continue to do your part. This does not discourage. This should not discourage you from doing your part, because at the end of the day, we get people who do amazing things, who garden, who shop locally, who choose to take public transportation when they can, who ride their bike to work. And that's a health thing too. If you want to be healthy and ride your bike, that's even another. Like you're killing two birds with one stone with that. So good job. And just continue to do what you're doing. And despite the blame, do not put the burden on yourself, because that is not going to help you with your anxiety, or it's going to make you more anxious, and it's not going to make you feel very good. So I would say everybody, just remember this. You're not the only one on this planet. You're not the only one who should be taking initiative and doing your part in the environment and sustainability, okay? So just remember, just keep doing your thing. Do it. Don't feel like you're the only one who should be doing it, but do it the best that you can. You know, you're not the only one, okay? So it's crazy. So I would say continue. And remember to read all your documents. Make sure that the work is cited correctly and has peer review and has some type of source to the information. And when it comes to corporations, always ask yourself a question. Always ask yourself, why now? Like if they were a corporation that never implemented sustainability initiatives in their programs, ask yourself, why are they doing it now? Like what is their agenda? Go further back into how they started up, what role they have to play in the environment, and then from there ask yourself, why are they doing these green initiatives, and are they even effective, and are their intentions good, or are they to disguise the effects that they are having on the environment? Because they might just be implementing these actions to disguise the work that they're doing. Okay, so just ask yourself these questions. It's really, 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 really important. And yeah. So yes, this has been TerraOnTheBench.com. Please support this new channel. I want to open my doors, open my blog to the sustainability and environmentally friendly lifestyle, eco news, and things like that. And I have a podcast. Please feel free to listen to that. Enjoy. Watch some of my shorts. It's really, really funny. So, yes, thank you. And we will watch another video shortly. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful, happy day. Goodbye.